went, add one padlock. Take your key away, the regional commander will also take his key away. Nobody will open those warehouses until after the 7th of January when the new president is sworn in. So they did that and we secured everything in the warehouses. So what I see is a problem of trust and lack of confidence during transitions. And citizens taking upon, we have compromised the neutrality and the integrity of our civil service. And so the public out there do not see the civil servants as neutral, independent, professional actors. They see them as part of our various political organizations. And so they don't trust them. So what we are facing today is a major loss of confidence in institutions that ordinarily should be independent, should be professional, and should be respected and highly regarded by every single Ghanaian. But they are not. And so when you ask me, what motion should we pass in this house? What resolution should we pass in this house? We should be passing a resolution asking this house to inquire into our conduct of young people in this country. Do not have confidence in our civil service. Do not have confidence in our police service. Do not have confidence in our army, and feel that they on their own should go and protect property and assets that we have recruited and we are paying these same services to protect. We have a genuine problem, and it is not a partisan matter. Today, we are reaping the benefits of the seeds that we invariably sowed when we were in office. And I hope that this country will not go along that path. And that is why I am happy when ministers who appear before the appointments committee promise that they will ensure that recruitments into the military, recruitments into the police, recruitments into fire service, and all these professional bodies that are supposed to carry out independent and professional functions indeed are impartial, are not political, and that every single Ghanaian citizen has a... Let me conclude by saying that I agree that we should condemn it together, unambiguously, across party lines. It shouldn't happen. Number two, I agree that we should review the situation with a view to coming out with proposals. How do we deal with this problem that we are confronted with? We can make recommendations which we can communicate to the executives. And let us not turn it into a partisan thing, start saying that the president has lost control, trying to take charge of the situation. But the young people are telling him that you cannot trust the police, you cannot trust the military, you cannot trust those organizations. I am telling you what I personally experienced. What I personally experienced. And I'm telling you, just yesterday, I had to go and convince the young people to allow a civil servant to perform his functions. They are clearly not right. But were we right when we created an impression that people should be recruited to the security agencies on the basis of partisanship? Were we right? Were we right when we politicized our civil service? Were we right when we politicized our military? Were we right? Were we right when we ran this country in such a way that we excluded everybody who was not part of our party? Were we right when all procurements, when a majority of procurements were sole sourced and the business community were denied business unless they identify with a political party? Were we right? Mr. Speaker, We are sowing, we are reaping what we sowed. So, Mr. Speaker, I do agree that it's a genuine problem, but I'm saying that all of us have in the past behaved in ways that have encouraged the attitude, tendencies, and behaviors that we are witnessing today. Let us agree as a house that we are going to work together to end impunity, that we are going to work together to ensure greater inclusion in governance, that we are going to share the benefits of prosperity together. Mr. Speaker, on that note, I want to thank my colleague, the minority leader, for making this statement. We join him to condemn the violence against the manager of the Jubilee Lounge. We agree with him that the matter should be investigated. We agree with him that those who engage in such conduct must be held accountable. But I urge all of us to work together to change the narrative and to reset Ghana. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, honorable members, not just this House, I think the whole country has identified a very serious challenge and a threat to the survival of our democracy. A friend of mine, resident in the US, wrote to me and termed our democracy, Ghana's democracy, as lawless democracy. Now, when they say a democracy is lawless, it means it is not a democracy. It's a failed democracy. Because democracy thrives on rule of law. Rule of law. Please, this House, I read a statement 2 days ago, is made up of 276 representatives of the people, elected members. The executive is made up of an individual president elected by the same people. If we 276 elected from the diversity of Ghana cannot come together to agree on the way forward, and you want to allow one individual who doesn't represent that diversity, he represents one group, a party. How could he be the one to take the decision to solve such a problem? That is why it's incumbent on this House. This is the House that can sit together and find a solution to this national challenge. Globally, we are acclaimed, but this is a very sore point. And all objective observers saw this coming. We used to have what we call dominion service. It came down to colonial service, and then came to government service, then to civil service, then they termed it public service. Now it is self-service. Are you getting the trend? You can't get it. Now it is what? self-service. Who are leading that? The political class. It used to be called dominion service, because that time the United Kingdom had dominions. So those who were working there were called dominion service. Then later on, they termed as colonies. They became colonial service. And you used to have the Secretary of State. And that we became a government. We formed our own governments and then became government service. Then we established civil service. I worked in the civil service before. Very strict rules. This civil service has deteriorated, and a term came to be used as public service. And usually, as they deteriorate, the conditions of service get better. So the public service servants rather receive better conditions than the civil servants, who were just serving the civilians. They were not looking for material gains. Now, this whole public service has gone worse and is now self-service. So when people are appointed into positions, including elected, the focus is how they serve themselves. So it's now self-service. The people are observing us as political leaders. This is what has deteriorated to the extent that our security agents now move from state security to government security. Transitional Act, it was a progress made, but there are a lot of gaps. The system that you were referring to, if you talk about UK, they don't have a term limit. There is no law in the UK saying that when you elect a government into power, it's going to serve from this date to that date. And so the circumstances determine whether they should call for election or not. Our constitution is very specific. Very, very specific. From 7th January to 6th January. That's a 4-year term. That's the end.
is automatic. And so we have to protect it, and you don't even know where it is. And
in agricultural engineering from the prestigious Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And I happen to be a fellow affiliated to the University Hall, so I'm a Katangi. After completing that, I did my national service, which was at the office of the Vice President. And I happen to be a proceeded to then work on my own for a while before I gained employment in the office of the Head of Civil Service, where I was assigned as an Assistant Director 2B to the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations at the time. After a year and a half there, I was moved to the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. In 2014, I was appointed Communication Specialist to then President John Dramani Mahama. Earlier, or preceding that in 2013, I was appointed to the board of the National IT Agency, NITA, where I served also for 3 years. And then in 2016, I contested to be the Member of Parliament for the people of Ningo Pram Pram on the ticket of the Great National Democratic Congress, the NDC. I won that election and represented the people of Ningo Pram Pram in the 7th Parliament. NITA. In the 7th Parliament, I was a member of both the Public Accounts Committee and the Communication Committee of Parliament. And I once again stood for re-election in the 8th Parliament in 2020 and won that election for the great NDC in Ningo Pram Pram, and returned to the 8th Parliament, where I still remained on the Public Accounts Committee and later became the Deputy Ranking Member on the Communication Select Committee. In 2024, I once again ran for office as on the ticket of the NDC as Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, and was returned to Parliament to join this ninth Parliament. I'm married to my lovely wife Vera. We have 3. I used to be the Secretary General of the African Parliamentary Network on Internet Governance, which is a network of parliamentarians across the African continent pursuing internet governance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, nominee. I've known you for quite a while when we both undertook the University of Law LLB program. So it's LLB too. So, nominee, my first question to you, if you look at the cost of calling in Ghana on our mobile networks, when you compare the cost to other West African countries and other jurisdictions like Europe, you find out that the cost of calls in Ghana is very, very high. What are you going to do as the Minister of Communication to bring down the cost of calling in Ghana? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. When it comes to voice calls, I believe that that is a part of the market that is in decline, has been in decline over the past decade with the rise of data calls and voice over IP calls. However, still call volumes make a critical mass of the revenue for MNOs. It's important to place it in perspective that when you talk about the cost of calls and you equate it to the European market or the North American market, those markets are very well matured, and the infrastructure that supports the core business of running an MNO are in a position to support lower prices. However, when you look across the African continent, it is safe to say that prices of voice calls in Ghana are competitive relative to other African countries. And so we'll continue to work with stakeholders and the regulator to see how well we can continue to drive prices down using regulation in a way that makes the businesses sustainable and does not kill the investments of MNOs in the sector. I thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up on this particular one, yes. Ghanaians have had concerns in terms of, again, the cost and the treatment that they receive from the telephony group. You make a call and they tell you the call is out of coverage area, the number you are calling cannot be reached when the person is right in distance with you. When you put all of these together and the cost that one needs to pay for such, what are you going to do as a minister to assure Ghanaians that whatever cost we incur in this service area receive the needed benefits of those calls?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Once again, on the issue of voice calls, I think that the real issue with voice calls is understand the market. It's what you've just pointed out in your follow-up, the quality of service. That's where consumers and customers have a problem, and that's where we all face the challenge, where you're making calls and the rate of call drops and call failures are extremely high. I agree with you that there is work that needs to be done from the ministry by way of policy through the regulator, the National Communications Authority, to ensure that the KPIs for the MNOs and service providers is enhanced and that we ensure strict adherence to it. If you set the KPIs low, every MNO is going to pass it. The question is, are we having the real consumer experience that citizens have to have? As Minister Designate, I think no. I think that there's a lot of work that the telcos have to do. Government also has to do some work, because for you to get better quality of experience, you need to allocate more spectrum to the MNOs. So as Minister Designate, if approved by this House and I become the Minister, one of the things we'll work with the regulators to do is to make more spectrum available to the MNOs. However, we'll be raising the KPIs and ensuring that the standards are met. And I will not be a minister who will be afraid to impose fines on MNOs who fail to meet the quality of service. Ghanaians deserve the best quality of service, and we would crack the whip where necessary, but we would also support the MNOs to ensure that they get what is needed to provide us the best quality of service. I thank you.
Thank you very much, nominee. My second question, Mr. Chairman, sits around the emerging issue of cybersecurity threat that we face as a country. In Ghana, a couple of our institutions have received cyber attacks, and its consequences on the nation is very dire. when you check the cost of cybersecurity.
Chairman, please, Chairman, I want to draw your attention that this committee, members of this committee originally, we don't have a quorum to continue with this vetting. And I want to bring that to your notice. And I'm raising quorum issues. Chairman, you should be able to establish that we have quorum under Order 64. Then we'll be able to make proceedings. We don't have quorum.
Yes, we do. We have.
Chairman, with all due respect to the First Deputy Minority Chief Whip, with all due respect to him, with all due respect to him, this shouldn't happen again.
Thank you.
If you want to invoke the rules, please do so properly. Not in the proceedings in such a disorderly manner. You have failed to invoke the rules properly. This is a committee proceedings that is ongoing. You have not established the number of committee members sitting around the table for which will warrant your interruption in such a manner. With all due respect, let me offer some education. This committee is constituted pursuant to Order 217, Rules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. In accordance with Rule 217, there are standing members of the committee pursuant to 2171. There are 11 standing members. Under 2172, subject matter committee leadership are statutorily mandated to be represented on the committee where subject matter minister nominees appear. As we speak, your side has provided 2 names as subject matter leadership committee from the communications committee. The majority side has also provided 2 subject matter honorable names to satisfy the requirement under that provision. Now, if you add these 4 members to the standing members of 11, that is 15. Now, you have not established that as we proceed, a quorum of 15 will give you at least 5. You have not established that even the membership supplied. Please, Chairman, can we have some order around the table? Please. You have failed to establish that even around the table, myself, yours truly, the chairman presiding, plus the 2 members you have supplied, plus 2 from our side, that is 6. Even minus you. And you are not a member of this committee. You are not. Speaker,
please,
with all due respect.
Point of order. I'm a member of this committee.
With all due respect.
Understanding Order 2177.
Yes.
Read Order 2177. I'm a member of this committee.
Please. I haven't called you yet. Please.
Call him and he's also distracted. So if he's misleading the house, he should read Order 2177. And no, then he should withdraw the fact that I'm not a member of this committee. Because if you read Order 2177,
Chairman,
it states that a member of the leadership of the house is entitled to participate. I'm a leader of the house.
Chairman,
I am entitled to. So I am a member of the committee. So don't say I am not.
Please switch off. Please. Let's try and do this orderly, please. Let's have some order.
Establish that you have quorum. Establish it. The ranking member, the vice ranking, the minority whip, the 1 person we appointed who is in the person of Honor Patrick Buama, none of them is here. On your side, the chairman is not here. The vice chair who you are presiding now, they are not also here. Establish that you have quorum before you continue.
All right, can you,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Honorable Roxon, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
please. Let's all.
Chairman,
Can you come in?
Chairman, with all due respect to the Honorable Habib, with all due respect to him, my point is that he is not a statutory member. He is also a member in pursuance of 2177. So if you just walk in, you have not even sat down for more than 2 minutes, and then you jumped in. Now, I have established that this committee is properly constituted for its work. In any case, we are not speaking of a commencement quorum. There's a difference between a commencement quorum and a decision-making quorum. You have not demonstrated the distinction. This, please, Chairman, with all due respect, this is very serious business of state. So the leader should comport himself. And if he wants to come in, okay, I withdraw that. I withdraw that. Now, Chairman, I withdraw. It's withdrawn.
Please withdraw.
Now you just jumped in to raise an issue of quorum, and I'm saying this is the third nominee that we are listening to, we are interrogating. The point where you could raise a commencement quorum is long past in the morning. We are in progress, we are in flight. When it comes to a decision making, then you could decide, you could raise the issue of quorum that we are about to take a decision as a committee. We are not properly constituted. Now, may I refer you to Article 102 of the Constitution and 104 of the Constitution, and in reading that, marry it with the decision of the Supreme Court in Abdullah versus Attorney General, that the rules of Parliament are applicable mutatis mutandis to the procedure before a committee's work, and that the committee has begun proceedings, quorum was established, and the proceedings is ongoing. So you cannot raise the issue of commencement. Now let me establish this point. Chairman, let me establish this point. Order 2171. The Appointments Committee comprises the First Deputy Speaker as chairperson, Minority Leader as ranking member, the Deputy Majority Leader as Vice Chairperson, the Deputy Minority Leader as Deputy Ranking Member, and the following other members: A, the Majority Chief Whip; B, Minority Chief Whip; C, 5 other members selected based on the numerical strength of the parties in Parliament. So based on 2171, A, B, and C, the standing membership of this committee is 11. Now, based on 2172, the chairperson and ranking member and 2 other members of the relevant subject matter standing or select committee shall join the members of the Appointments Committee to consider persons nominated by the President for appointment as all that. Now, Chairman, with all due respect to the First Deputy Minority Chief Whip, his membership is provided under 2177, and it says a member of the leadership of the House is entitled to participate in the proceedings of the committee during the consideration of nominees for appointment. So the issue of quorum and quorum is and Mr. Chairman, to invoke Order 64. Let me refer the House to Order 64. This agenda to disrupt these proceedings, it won't work.
That's right. Yeah.
So let me address, Chairman, let me address this matter and we make progress. Now quorum in Parliament. Chairman, Order 64.1. A quorum of Parliament apart from the person presiding is 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. Now where the person presiding is a deputy speaker or a member, that person shall be counted as part of the quorum. Now, I agree that the orders will apply to the work of the committee. Without establishing the number around the table, you just said that we don't have a quorum. Meanwhile, as we speak, the standing membership of the committee is 11. And we have myself, we have the vice chairperson, we have the Honorable Ajia represented, we have the Honorable Rita Odole represented, we have we have the Honorable Mahama Shaibu represented, and we have Honorable Uma. He has just stepped out. We have just stepped out. So this attitude, Chairman, with all due respect, Chairman, let me conclude by saying, let me conclude. Chairman, the honorable member is completely out of order. He's completely out of order. We must make progress with our nominee. I so submit. I thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay, Honorable Abujinapo, please, let's do this orderly.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if you allow me, let me congratulate the nominee and to say that I sympathize with him. That he's caught up in this litigation. But indeed, it's his chief whip who is anyway, Mr. Chairman, I want to submit that the application and procedure invoked by the first deputy minority chief whip. The first deputy minority chief whip is properly grounded, is properly construed, and is properly laid before you, the chairman of this committee. Let me establish two preliminary points. The first one is that the majority, Mr. Chairman, the first one is that the majority, the learned majority chief whip, who is a senior lawyer, whom I respect a lot, himself makes the point that at the commencement of the proceedings of a committee, one can raise the issue of quorum. In the same vein, he makes extraneous efforts to establish the fact that this committee is properly constituted and this committee has quorum. And he goes ahead to try and even name members of the committee to establish that there is quorum. Meanwhile, he has said that, Mr. Chairman, he has said that you can only raise the issue of quorum at the beginning or the commencement of the proceedings of the committee. That's the first point, the first preliminary point. The second preliminary point, Mr. Chairman, the second preliminary point, wait. The second, Mr. Chairman, the country, Chief Whip, Mr. Chairman, the country is listening to us. The majority chief whip has made a very comprehensive legal submission. Members on this side, the minority, we are making our submission. I think we owe it to the nominee, we owe it to the country to get to the bottom of this matter in an orderly manner based on the rules of the House. Mr. Chairman, the second point I make is that what the deputy minority chief whip sought to do was to raise an application pursuant to Order 64 of the Standing Orders of Parliament to the chairman of the committee. And Mr. Chairman, when that application is laid, it is only and only when the application is laid before the chairman will the chairman go through the processes and the proceedings pursuant to Order 64 of the Standing Orders to make a determination whether or not this committee, this Appointments Committee of Parliament, is properly constituted and that it has quorum. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I want to quote Order 64. I want to quote Order 64. And I quote. Order 64 says, the quorum of Parliament, apart from the person presiding, is 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. Two, where the person presiding is a deputy speaker or a member, the person shall be counted as part of the quorum. Please. 3, a member may draw the attention of the person presiding at any time during a sitting that members Mr. Chairman, can I be listening in silence? We are live on national television. I mean, can we please? Now, look. No, can we? And so, Mr. Chairman, Honorable,
Please.
Honorable member.
Not a member. He is not. Can you put that thing off? All right. Honorable member, I believe you are done.
Mr. Chairman, what is the point I seek to make? Mr. Chairman, the submission I make is that pursuant to Order 64, pursuant to Order 64 of our rules, when a member makes an application to the chairman, and indeed the majority chief whip himself, and I will always refer to him as the learned majority chief whip, has submitted that the rules of the parliament as a plenary, the parliament as is applicable to the proceedings of a committee of parliament, and therefore Order 64 is applicable to this appointments committee. And so what is my conclusion and what is my contention? And of course Article 102 and Article 101 buttresses this point, Mr. Chairman. And so I'm contending that when the deputy first minority chief whip made the application to you, the correct and proper procedure pursuant to Order 64, which is Order 64 applicable to the House of Parliament, and which the majority chief whip himself has submitted, applies to the committee of the House, and therefore the committee, the appointments committee. Mr. Chairman, I conclude by saying that you then would have gone through the processes of establishing whether or not this committee is properly constituted and has quorum to conduct business. But as we speak, Mr. Chairman, as we speak, the NDC members of this committee have now all run into the committee. They run here, they rush here. So, Mr. Chairman, on that basis, let me conclude by saying that the first deputy minority chief whip has withdrawn his application. It was properly grounded, and therefore let us proceed.
Thank you very much. Please, let's continue the meeting. Well, we have the commencement quorum, so we'll continue the meeting, and then you are overruled. Actually, can we continue? Yeah, you on the floor. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Before you go on, just to bring your attention, I was given this piece of paper before we started, and Honorable Abu Jinapo is a subject matter person on this table, so you help us form a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I was on my second in the and that's my second. I hope. Okay, so my question was that cyber security has been a national concern, and I was indicating that the country has experienced some couple of cyber attacks, and then when you consider the cost of establishing cyber security in institutions, it is on a very high side. When you look at the NDC manifesto, you talked about enhancing support to cyber security establishment and initiatives. I want to know first from the nominee, what is he going to do as a minister to fund cyber security initiatives to ensure that the country's systems and networks are adequately protected? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the cybersecurity of our country is a critical one that sits and straddles the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technologies and Innovation, and our national security apparatus. In fact, when you read the National Security Strategy document that was prepared in 2020, I believe that paragraph 3.4 on page 41 speaks about our cybersecurity preparedness as a nation. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, in 2020, in the formulation of that legislation, and when you speak about funding cybersecurity, I'm sure that the outgoing minister will bear witness, and the members of the committee, that when the bill came to Parliament from Cabinet, it did not have anything about funding cybersecurity. It came into law, the outgoing government was unable to operationalize the fund. And I, who brought it into the bill, today sits here as a nominee of the president to superintend this bill. I give you the assurance that the brain and thinking behind me introducing funding for the bill, and if you read it, I identify a number of sources to fund cybersecurity. One of them is grants from the government, another is allocations from government or grants from individual donor agencies like the Mastercard Foundation and Rockefeller Foundation. Another one is actually the establishment of the Cyber Fund, which will be a dedicated fund for beneficiaries of cybersecurity. So I think I just share providence that when approved by this House, and I assume office as Minister for Communications, the thoughts that came through my mind in September 2020, when I introduced this as an amendment, will see the light of day under President John Dramani Mahama. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My last point has to do with the fintech space. It has to do with this fintech space. So you realize that a lot of Ghanaian enterprises or young Ghanaians have built capacity within the fintech industry. Yet when you look at support from donor enterprises like the World Bank, most of their support in these areas are for Ghanaians to buy software, or they buy softwares for Ghanaian companies, which limits the development of our fintech industries. Now, there's also a call from your NDC and during your manifesto that you were going to establish a $50 million fund to support the fintech industry. My question is, how are you going to protect the young Ghanaians who have built up their capacity in this fintech space? How are we going to make sure that they get the needed support and leverage to build their capacities and growth? And also, how is this fund going to be disbursed? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as subcommittee chairman for the NDC's Manifesto Drafting Committee on Digital Economy and ICT, we put in place that policy plank with the approval of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to set up a 50 million fintech fund. The 50 million fintech fund, that 50 million is supposed to be a seed funding that we're going to use to attract funds from other multilateral and bilateral donor agencies. Our target is to build a $300 million fund. That's not going to be disbursed like confetti, but that's going to be used as seed funding to attract major funding from venture capitalists and angel investors. Another thing we're going to be doing to support the fintech industry in Ghana is the setting up of business advisory supports and regulatory sandboxes to ensure that our young startups survive. In fact, the statistics show that most startups die before their 5th anniversary. And that's because most of these startups are started by young innovators who don't have all it takes to run a business. It's one thing being an innovator, it's a completely different business running and managing a business enterprise. And so that's where this fund is going to come in to offer them the business advisory support, to give them what it takes to run a business profitably, whilst the innovative juices of young Ghanaians, the creative minds that God has blessed this country with, will continue to explode. But one last thing we're going to do for the fintechs is that we're going to redefine the entire regulatory framework. As we see today, the President has issued an executive instrument that redesignates the Ministry of Communications to the Ministry for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation. Fintechs are digital technology. It's because of them. They are the heart of President Mahama's government, because he wants to have a truly financially inclusive government by the time he's leaving office in 2028. And so we're going to set up an independent subsidiary of the Bank of Ghana, along the lines of the FCA in the UK, and along the lines of GIPS, 100% owned by the Bank of Ghana, but that's going to be agile in its regulatory framework and allow for innovation, things like agri-tech, edu-tech, insurance technology in the fintech space to take off. So this is the golden era for fintechs under the next 4 years of John Dramani Mahama. Mr. Chairman, I thank you.
Any further questions? Or you are done? You've asked your 3 questions. Then I will proceed to give the floor to Honorable Abu Jinapo. Honorable members, what we do is that we will as subject matter committee members first, and Order 2172. And subject matter committee members is 2 from each side. So if you want me to give the floor to another person. What is your pleasure? You want to go to the other side? Honorable Abednego, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And congratulations, Senior. Your appointment does not surprise anybody because you have proven to be very, very, very astute in the communications industry. I wasn't here in the 7th Parliament, but I followed your exploits when you played a leading role in getting the cybersecurity law passed in 2020, Act 1038. There was a question on that, but let me pick your thoughts also on the same subject matter. There is 2 schools of thought. One believes that the Cybersecurity Authority should be under the remit of the national security. Others, they make the argument that it has to do with cross-border crime, talking about jurisdictional issues. Those who are in favor that it should remain with the Ministry of Communications make the argument that it is an IT-related, and therefore it should be with the Ministry of Communications. You have been with it from its inception. What is your thoughts on these 2 of thoughts?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In my earlier response, I made reference to the National Security Strategy document of 2020 that recognizes cybersecurity as a key tool. I agree that there's the school of thought that thinks that cybersecurity should not sit, especially the Cybersecurity Authority, should not sit under the Ministry of Communications, but rather under the National Security Ministry. There is some merit to that, but I think that when you look at it holistically, you realize that that will not be the best architecture. When you look at best case situations across the world, like in India, like in Singapore and in Rwanda, you realize that you keep your Cybersecurity Authority under your Ministry for Communications or your ICT ministry, because cybersecurity plays 5 cardinal roles, or has 5 interfaces. There's the public interface, which deals with the citizens. Then there is the international interface, our engagements with multilateral and bilateral stakeholders. You've got the industry interface as well, where you talk about the cybersecurity professionals in the sector. You've got the policy formulation, which is largely what the ministry will lead. And then you've got the security and intelligence interface. So of 5 interfaces, 4 of them are civilian and 1 is security. If you move it under your National Security Ministry, it becomes difficult for you to have the full benefit of the 4 other interfaces, be it policy, be it industry, be it international or public interfaces. What we need to do is to have collaborations between the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation and our national security outfits to ensure that the synergies are built between both institutions. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I will not have further questions because Minister Designate, your competence and capabilities is unquestioned. Congratulations once again.
Any further questions? I then move to give the floor to Honorable Abu Jinapo.
I'm ready.
Honorable former Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me congratulate Honorable Sam George for his appointment as the Minister for Communication, and I do so very warmly. Congratulations, Minister. Mr. Nominee, I believe you'll be following the unfolding matter of intense interest to the world, which is a matter I refer to the Chinese AI app company DeepSeek, which is caused a major upset in the American Silicon Valley industry, which is resulted even in tech company, AI company giants such as NVIDIA losing $600 billion United States dollars of stock. This area has become a major area, artificial intelligence, and how other countries are leveraging on them to bring about progress and development. If you are recommended by this committee to Parliament and the Parliament were to approve you and you become the Minister for Communications, what plans or what is your thinking on how Ghana itself can tap into or can plug into this artificial intelligence industry to bring about development in our country? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I saw a quote today that said AI in 2025 is like Bitcoin in 2013. Jump on the bandwagon now or you get left out. President Mahama has a clear vision on his AI policy. We're going to take the current AI strategy that was developed by the previous government, review it, make it fit for purpose by engaging industry and ensuring that Ghana becomes the hub for artificial intelligence on the African continent. We're going to do this by making sure that our innovation hubs, as promised in our manifesto, are executed, and then we will introduce AI on top of big data that we are taking. Ghana will become the center and the hub for artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, data analytics, and data processing on the continent in the next 4 years. I thank you.
I believe the nominee will want to shed some more light on. Cybersecurity is a major in the security framework of the world. I mean, it's probably, arguably, one of the most important areas of security concerns across the world, cybersecurity. Now, you've spoken to it, but there is obviously the big debate out there as to where the effort to clamp down on cybersecurity should be properly situated. Some of the pundits hold a school of thought that it's a national security issue, and therefore it should be situated within the ambit or the confines of the national security architecture, with the Ministry of Communication being more or less the expert or specialist wing which supports the national security to clamp down on cybersecurity. Of course, you cited the example of India, but there are other examples like America, like England, like Europe, and several other places where the framework is fundamentally different from some of the examples you cited. In Ghana today, it is situated under the Ministry of Communications largely. What is your position? Not so much as to how the country's efforts at fighting cybersecurity, where it should be situated, but how can we build the proper synergy between the national security apparatus holistically in its totality and your ministry to ensure that we come to full grips on the issue of cybersecurity in Ghana?
Thank you. Once again, I'll just reiterate for the purposes of this committee and for the betterment of the people of Ghana. The NDC holds a view that cybersecurity is not just a national security issue, it's also a civilian issue. Cybersecurity has two sides. It's two sides of the same coin. Protecting citizens from the state and from malicious actors. If you put cybersecurity solely under the ambit of national security, it assumes a fully militarized, weaponized tool. But cybersecurity, like I said, has the public, has the industry, has the international and policy outlooks that we need to keep as civilian. The lecture we have today allows for daily briefings by the Director General of the Cybersecurity Authority to the National Security Coordinator. So we are fully integrated. There's full briefings. The Joint Security Council has the Minister for Defense, the Minister for Interior, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, the Minister for National Security, and the Minister for Communications there. And I'll just make this clear. You've got the police, the Minister for Interior, overseeing the police, the Ghana Police Service. The Ghana Police Service does some work relative to cybersecurity. We've not moved the police from Ministry of Interior under National Security. You've got Defense Intelligence under the Ministry of Defense. We haven't moved them under National Security. You've got the Research Department under Foreign Affairs. You've not moved them under National Security. Cybersecurity has a home under Communications, and it will remain there. Thank you.
You are entitled to 3 questions, so you can ask your final question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in the run-up to the 2024 elections, the honorable nominee, on several occasions, and I have various articles to that effect, date and occasions on which the honorable nominee made the point I'm about to put to him. And one of them I quote, which was uttered on the 5th of December at the NDC's final rally. And I quote, Mr. Chairman, the nominee said, vote for candidate Mahama to sign the anti-LGBTQ bill, end quote. Mr. Chairman, by way of background, we are all very familiar with the interest, this, and rightly so, the interest the LGBTQ bill generated in our country, so much that it traveled all the way to the Supreme Court. And the honorable nominee was very categorical that if you voted for President Mahama, the bill will be signed. So my question to the nominee, following the firm promise and commitment he made to the Ghanaian people on behalf of his party, the National Democratic Congress, and his candidate, President Mahama, when will the bill be signed? When will the bill be signed?
Thank you very much. But Honorable Sam George, be brief. Be brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know that this question, because you were chairman of Constitutional, Legal, and Parliamentary Affairs, you know my passion about this. His Excellency President Mahama spoke immediately after his swearing in when he met with the Catholic Bishops' Conference. I wish to quote what he said, parts of what he said, with your permission. So the convention is that all bills that are not assented to before the expiration of the life of Parliament expires. And so that bill effectively is dead. It has expired. I don't know what the promoters of the bill intend to do, but I do think that we should have a conversation on it again. I repeat that again for emphasis. President Mahama said, I do think that we should have a conversation on it again, so that all of us, if we decide to move that bill forward, move it forward with a consensus. My position is that that bill is a critical part of our national life. Ghanaian family values, our children's innocence must be protected. In this 9th Parliament, that bill will be reintroduced, either as a private member's bill or as government's bill. I will work with government if it's government's bill. If it's not and it's my bill, I will bring it back again, because my chiefs seated here, the chiefs from Ningo and Pram, supported me in bringing that bill in the 8th Parliament. They've asked me to reintroduce it in the 9th Parliament. I will do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of follow-up questions. I have a couple of. I didn't ask follow-up question in the first two.
You are entitled to a follow-up question on a substantive question. So once you don't exercise the right to ask a follow-up question after asking the first question, the second question, you can have
so I can't
3 follow-ups. You are now entitled to 1 follow-up question on the LGBTQ.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, the nominee is also on record to have said, and I quote, the Chief Justice is helping Akufo-Addo to support LGBTQ, end quote. I want to repeat. The nominee is on record to have said, the Chief Justice is helping Akufo-Addo to support LGBTQ. Mr. Chairman, we are all very much aware of how strong a Christian the Chief Justice is. And the nominee came to this conclusion because in his view, the Chief Justice was not expecting action on the anti-LGBTQ case in the Supreme Court. Eventually, Mr. Chairman, the matter was determined, and indeed, the Supreme Court determined the matter in favor of the plaintiffs, that the bill be transmitted to the President for his assent. And therefore, my follow-up question is, will the nominee, in the light of what has happened, and will the nominee, given that the basis for his conclusion is obviously been proven wrong, will he apologize to the Chief Justice here? And further so, will he agree with me that at the time he promised that President Mahama would sign the anti-LGBTQ if voted into office, the nominee, as a very intelligent, experienced legislator, knew very well that on the dissolution of the 8th Parliament, that bill will no longer stand, and that bill will also pass with the dissolution of the 8th Parliament, and there will therefore not be any bill for President Mahama to assent to. Will he agree that there was some element of dishonesty in making that commitment to the Ghanaian people? Will he apologize to the Chief Justice, and will he agree that he knew very well that the bill will not be available for President Mahama to sign onto if voted into office?
Thank you very much, but there is a bit of correction of the question that I will have to clarify, honorable members. The action was taken by the plaintiff, and if the plaintiff's action is dismissed, the decision of the court cannot be in favor of the plaintiff. So the plaintiff's action clearly was dismissed. The plaintiff action was to the effect that the bill must not be transmitted, and the court's decision is that the bill must be transmitted. So, but you said in your question that the decision of the Supreme Court was in favor of the plaintiff. Very well. Having considered, may you go ahead to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for that clarity, because I was going to make that clarity. Mr. Chairman, let me state that I'm an elder of a church, and as an elder of the church, my integrity and honesty are key principles that I hold dear. My opinions about the actions and inactions of the Chief Justice remain. They are unchanged, and they have been vindicated by the actions of the Chief Justice post my demonstration against her. She could have taken action earlier. She held her own horses. My opinion of the Chief Justice remains my opinion today. It doesn't change.
Thank you very much. I then proceed to give the floor to Honorable Lydia Akamvariba.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. Actually, I don't have a question to ask my able deputy ranking. I only want to congratulate you. Your appointment is no surprise to me, because I know that you can even do much better than the position they have given you. I have been with you in the committee from day one. We all went together to APNIC. African Parliamentarian Network on Internet Governance. I'm a member of that particular organization. It is because of the nominee that I can proudly say that I'm the treasurer of West African Parliamentarian Network on Internet Governance. I know somebody will ask, he's your junior brother, but how come? He has the experience. Experience is not about age. Experience is not about...
Honorable Lydia, if you don't have questions, let's make progress. Let's make progress.
I want to use the opportunity to thank the President very much for appointing you, and I wish you the best of luck in that committee and in that ministry. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and then recognize Honorable Hajia Ladi Ayamba.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. Congratulations. As for this, congratulations, it's worth it more than 1,000,000 times. But we have to just do it for the fact that we are supposed to do it. You have worked, you deserve it, and you are there. What we can think about is that the Almighty Allah bless you so that you'll be able to work and work harder. The LGBTQ plus with all the pluses under the sun, which you spoke, worked, and did everything about. My concern is about issues of what was being put inside our books, that is in the schools, for peoples to learn. And I'm using peoples because this is as far as the basic schools. Will you consider using your expertise as a communicator to continue to advocate and to work hand in hand with the Minister for the Minister for Education to ensure that our books are properly looked into, so that we don't buy the minds of our children when they are so innocent? Will you consider that? After answering that question, I say thanks to the Almighty Allah for putting you in that position, and may He guide and protect you. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nominee. Again, just be brief.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I would put everything in my bin to protect the innocence of Ghanaian children. And we would instruct our cybersecurity authority and our Child Online Protection Program to collaborate with the Ministry of Education to ensure that our children are protected from anti-Ghanaian values in e-learning book model that will be introduced into our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I recognize Charles Oredu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Please, you operate within the terms agreed upon.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, congratulations, Honorable Sam Nate George. Honorable, do you have a Ghana card with you? Do you have a Ghana card?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So do you have it with you now?
No, not on my person.
Okay. So why would you say that using the Ghana card as the primary source for the SIM registration was flawed, and that you would want to subject the good people of Ghana to another re-registration of the SIM card?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Common sense is the reason why I would say that. Because the actions that happened were very at par with common sense and logic. We've got a National Identification Authority that holds and sits as our national repository of biometric data. I think it was wickedness of the highest order to subject Ghanaians to long hours of queues, taking away productive man hours affecting our economy, to go and queue again and resubmit biometrics, simply because egos could not be managed. We will do a proper SIM re-registration again, but this time nobody's going to queue, because common sense will prevail, expertise will prevail, and logic will work. The MNOs hold a certain set of data. We would use technology to cross-reference that against the NIA's database and all biometric databases, and only instances where there are disparities would require you visiting an MNO shop. Because today, as we speak, the telcos cannot truly verify who is holding their SIM card. And it even is in their own benefit for us to do this process and do it properly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll proceed to recognize.
I have a follow-up.
Please be fast.
Honorable nominee, as a follow-up to the question, to the first question.
Okay. Hold on, before the second question. Honorable nominee, we plead with you. We know issues associated with the use of common sense. So I will consequentially direct that the aspect of the common sense be deleted from your answer to the question. Thank you very much. Please proceed to ask your second question.
Hearing from the Minister Designate for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations, Ningo Prampram MP, Sam Nate George. He has been touching on a number of issues to do with cyber security, to do with communication in general, including the tariffs we pay.
In one or two other countries. Ghana ranked really high in the launch of this 5G. You were on record to have said that you plan to roll this 5G network that, MPP launched commercially if NDC should win the elections. Now, you are the minister. NDC is in power. You plan to commercially roll this out. But what about the good people of Akrofonso, the good people of Impintimpi, the good people of Adadekrom, who are complaining that even after the launch of the 3G network, they were not even having a good connectivity. They had issues with the speed of the internet. Then 4G, and now you are ready to roll out the 5G.
Thank you very much. Order. Honorable members, government is continuous. Ghanaians are aware that they just left power some 3 weeks ago. So please proceed to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, I was going to, following on your premise, the honourable member has just admitted the failings of the past government over the last 8 years, but we would fix it. President Mahama is here to reset the country, and in resetting it, we'll fix it. Fixing 3G, 4G, and rolling out 5G are not mutually exclusive. With the right handsets, skill sets, and the persons in charge, you can do all of those at the same time. We would make sure that 3G and 4G penetration gets to all the hamlets and villages you've spoken about, and at the same time, roll out 5G. We will do it. It is possible to reset Ghana.
Yeah, it is possible.
My last question.
Thank you. Yes, your very last question.
Grateful that you said it's possible.
To reset.
my last question, Mr. Nominee. What's your take on ECOWAS and the national roaming policy? You know that in Europe, subscribers do have this European policy where if, say, you move from one European country to the other, you pay the same cost for data and then for calls. But in Africa, it's totally different.
Honorable member, your question.
The question is, Mr. Chairman, I was building, the background.
Please.
The question is, what's your take on ECOWAS and this, it's a national roaming policy? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I think that the roaming policy is one that we need to embrace. Under the last administration, I'm aware that there are about 3 other African countries where Ghana has signed on with where you can roam your calls and data. I believe that we're going to continue under the ECOWAS framework to ensure that roaming, ECOWAS roaming, and Honorable Chairman, there's a bit of a distinction between ECOWAS roaming and national roaming. The question seems to equate both. They're 2 different things, because the ECOWAS roaming is between Ghana and other member states of ECOWAS. National roaming is within the confines of the country, but between the MNOs. So you're an MTN user, you get into an area, you can you can run on the Telecel network. Network. So we'll work on to integrate it properly and ECOWAS roaming as well.